Okay, obviously a huge game coming up this week on the road. Very good and very talented team that we're facing. Offensively, the #1 scoring offense in our league. Defensively, one of the top. They're very talented defensive coordinator, same defensive coordinator that we faced in the national championship game was at Florida State, and we're very familiar with each other. So, big challenge for our guys and a big game.
Questions?
Was it mostly CJ and Melvin that kind of took over Duke's spot in the lineup after he went down?
Yeah, it was a combination of both that did that, and I thought they performed fairly well, especially given the circumstances of not getting a lot of practice reps during the week.
Can you give us an update on Duke's stats right now?
Yeah, he's week to week right now. We'll see how he progresses.
So he's out this week.
I'm not ready to say that, but it's probably unlikely.
Guys, I mean, you've been around a long time, obviously, been through just about everything, but
Yeah.
how do you, a particularly disappointing loss like that, followed by immediately by a very big game, how do you go about helping your team move on?
Well, I think the easiest way is you've got a big game coming up, and you've got to put it behind you. Secondly, we have a lot of veteran guys, a lot of seniors that have been through a lot of good and a lot of bad, and because that leadership, that makes it easier to put that thing behind you. I mean, we're playing a huge game this week against a very talented team, and that'll be our challenge. But I feel certain that our team will handle that the right way.
Talk a lot about players and how they handle things after a loss. How are the coaches and your staff handling things and trying to get things on the right track?
Yeah, as a coach, I know myself. As a coach, you take the losses very hard, and obviously Saturday night it wasn't a great feeling. But as a coach, you've got to put it behind you, and you've got to move on. And our staff has done that. We need to do everything we can to get our guys prepared for this week. And that's what I'm coach.
What sticks out to you about Georgia's defense? They've been pretty good against the run, except for that Florida game.
Yeah, they have a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. Their linebackers are, I think, the two most experienced guys in our league, and they're very long up front.
Gus, I know that you're not involved heavily with defense, but have you looked at the last 4 weeks and what has caused the problems, particularly early first half kind of problems?
Well, I think you just said it. The getting off to the start. That's been the thing that we've got to fix. Once we get into the game, especially second half, our guys are playing better and they're settling down and all that. We got to get off to a better start, defensively, earlier in the game.
How do you control getting off to a good start, both offensively and defensively?
Yeah, well, you do everything you can in practice. It's what you do. I mean, that's how you prepare. And defensively, that's going to be our goal to get off to a better start.
Being a head coach, do you try to get more involved in defense the way things have been going the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, as a head coach, I mean, it's my job, all 3 phases, to get the most out of all 3 phases. And, I'm confident in the leadership guys that we have. At the same time, as a head coach, you try your best to give your team the best chance of being successful. And, that's my job.
With tackling and miscommunication on defense being an issue these last several weeks, are you pleased with how that's been addressed?
We're going to get better at it. We'll get better at it. And a lot of it, the tackling is being in the right position in the first place. You say about the miscommunications and taking the right angles and all that. And, we got some veteran guys, and I feel like we'll finish strong in that area.
Are you at all concerned with, miscommunication issues at this point in the season? It just seems really late in the season we have some kind of these issues.
Well, I mean, anytime miscommunication in any area late in the season, that's not good. And as coaches, we got to figure out a way to solve that in all 3 areas.
Just without asking you to go where you shouldn't, have you talked to Steve Shaw this week, particularly about the fumble of the team?
I mean, like I said earlier, we have conversations every week, on plays that happen during the games and all that.
Obviously, you guys lost Carl, but are you disappointed that no one's kind of stepped up and taken over that clear pass rush role?
Well, I mean, that's a big factor, you know, in our defense is being able to put pressure on a quarterback with just 4 guys. And at times, we've not, you know, gotten that done. So what we gotta do is figure out ways to disrupt things and put pressure on the quarterback.
Are you happy with the way things have gone defensively and recruiting the last couple of years and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done a solid job. I mean, we've got some very good players. I think recruiting is going very well.
We talked a lot about the defense. How different is the challenge this week with Gurley coming back and that running game that they have?
Well, you know, first of all, they got 2 freshman running backs that are extremely talented, and you know, you can definitely see that they've been effective. Got a lot of good experience this year, and then of course when you add Gurley in, I mean, he's one of the better individual players at any position, you know, and so he's a very good player. Their quarterback is very efficient. You know, he doesn't turn the ball over, runs the offense very good. You know, I think they got some receivers that can hurt you too if they get in one-on-one situations.
You start getting Sammy back on track, Duke goes down, they start doubling him up like we saw last season. How do you think he's gonna be able to handle that in the future, and how do you handle
Yeah,
that?
well, here's the good thing, is, you know, we got all of our receivers back from last year, you know, and the addition of Duke, you know, was really good, but our guys are used to operating, you know, we've got our receiver coach, our quarterback back, so we're in solid shape as far as, you know, without Duke, if we have to play without him. We got a lot of confidence in our receivers, and it's not just Sammy, we got some other guys that have some big game experience that, you know, have made big plays in big games.
Gus, statistically, this is probably the top matchup of running backs in the SEC. Obviously, Gurley's stats were hurt by his suspension, but nevertheless, do you view them both, Cap and Gurley, as the top 2 running backs in the conference?
You know, I really don't get into all that, other than the fact that I know that Gurley is a very good player, and I know that Cap's a very good player. You know, 2 of the better in our league statistically.
Does anybody bring up the way the game ended last year to your team or your guys, and do you worry about that when you're trying to focus on this game?
No, that's last year. That's last year, and we're concentrating on this year.
How good was Cap Saturday? Going back and looking at the film, I know he had over 200 yards, but when you watched it, how good was he on Saturday?
Well, he's a workhorse guy. You know, he's a tough guy. You know, he can break tackles. He's getting a really good feel for not only our zone game but our gap game, and you know, just he's getting more and more comfortable every time he's out.
In light of that, Gus, he only had 3 carries in that fourth quarter. I know you were trying to come back, you needed to make some plays in the passing game, but you know, when he has over 200 yards kind of going into the fourth, and then 2 or 3 carries in the fourth quarter, how do you balance that?
You know, I don't know. You know, I think we moved the ball pretty well in the fourth quarter. I think overall that's just what you got to be thinking. You know, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's throwing, whether it's running. You know, that's our offense. I mean, we try to take what the defense gives us, and so there wasn't any rhyme or reason why not. We just fumbled the football. That was the big thing. We moved the football. That wasn't the problem.
Corey's had a lot less of a workload here the last few weeks. How's he handling that?
Yeah, well, Corey's, you know, he's a definitely very good player for us. He does a lot of different things for us. Even though he's not gotten the carries he may have earlier, he's helped us in some different ways, you know, as far as protection and check downs and doing some other things for us.
Are you guys kind of using him as a lead blocker a little bit?
We have a couple games, you know, and he does a good job with that. He's a very smart guy. He's a veteran guy that understands our offense very well. So it gives us, you know, some flexibility utilizing his skills.
For Nick, all along, since the time he left Georgia, his motivation was to get back into the SEC, and former coaches and teammates along the way said just how motivated he's been about this matchup, how last year was and how this year. What do you see from him?
Yeah, well, I mean, last year, there's no doubt it was definitely different for him. But anytime you experience that, have that experience one time, it's not as a big a deal the second time. So he's going to prepare like he normally would, and you know, there's not going to be any more to it than that.
How has Quan Bray developed as a receiver? Because in high school, I mean, he did a lot of running back, but how's he developed as a wide?
Yeah, every year he's been here, he's developed more and more as a wide receiver, and I think everybody sees now. I mean, he's starting to make plays down the field and running very good routes, strong with the ball. You know, he's really doing some things at the receiver position that is really helping us.